Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to Martha, our guest for today. It is a pleasure to have you with us. We have now convo number 101, and we cover now a very thrilling topic, which is causing a lot of discussions, the metaverse. And we could win you as an expert on the do's, don't, and what's inside or not inside, and what can be understood of this. I was lucky to hear some of other topics addressed by you in some podcast and some talks with Winfried Felser, and another one on the Shift CX. So I'm very curious about the background from your end, Martha, and what are your passions? So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on the show today. So I'm super excited to talk about my passion, and my passion is basically innovation. So if you follow my last 20 years, I was always innovating digital transformation. Then over the majority of my time, and being and leading change in all sorts of different functions. So as such, I love, as you have seen, platform and ecosystems. So I've had several roles in that space. And for me, the natural evolution of platforms and ecosystem is the metaverse. So I'm absolutely delighted that we have the opportunity to talk about it today.
Could you elaborate a bit more on your former stations of your business life?
Yeah, I have quite some call it a bouquet of different roles. So I've been a CEO and a CFO. I've been leading different spaces, you can say, but all in financial services. So in insurance and also in banking. So there's a lot of, I think, exciting things to do. And in particular nowadays, if you look at the shift in business model, which already started for platforms, that's how I got into this. And now also for Metaverse, and it's always a question, what does it mean for us in terms of what do clients really expect from us? So it's less about us as financial services, or it's more about people and what they expect from us. And that there, you mentioned you listened to some of my podcasts and interactions I had with like-minded people and controversial people. It's always a question of what do clients want? And I think clients' expectations have completely shifted with the platform economy, and we see this more and more. And we also see the opportunity we have there, which is an amazing opportunity. And for some, it's still a little bit strange out there, but we have also seen that on platform ecosystem, banks are catching up, but somehow they are still a bit slow, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned expectations from the customer side, and I suggest that it would be a smart move to manage these expectations properly. So from your experience, what are in the moment the expectations on the client side if they want to have a modern bank environment for their financial needs?
Yeah, so if we look at the expectations, I would say there's a very beautiful model from Accenture. So you can take it into three parts. So the first part is the simple one, which banks are very familiar with, and in general brands, it's about the product. So you have certain expectation if you go to UBS or Credit Suisse, that you want a special product, but this is not all, because more and more diverting from that product, you go into the next level, which is more about selling the experience. So if I compare it, for example, in the fintech scene, you have the Revolut, you also have the N26 and so on. And maybe as an example, Revolut is really brilliant because Revolut started with multi-currency card, and everyone thought in the banking industry, whoa, that's more of the same. But they started in a way where everything is seamless, everything is fast. Pre this show, we talked a little bit about identity and how to authentify yourself. So that's very, very quick in Revolut. What they have done now, they have created a total ecosystem around it. So they are part of your life more or less now, because they have not only created a banking app, but during COVID, guess what was the most important in our life? It was the pet. So a lot of people, they were getting pets. So obviously Revolut is not providing pets, but since pets become so important for you, what they have done is they now also have a pet insurance. So they think about what's important for your life, and they now go further into traditional more mortgages and so on. But they also had a partnership with Amazon. They're creating their own marketplace. So everything is possible. And similar to what you might know, Grab and WhatsApp and all these super apps, what everyone is trying to do to be part of your life, and not only that, to become a life coach. But this is not all. So this is a second layer. If we now go into the third layer, now it's getting really, really interesting, and it's called liquid expectation. So all the experiences we have on a day-to-day basis, they travel from where we have them to also any other thing we expect. So what do I mean with that? For example, on Amazon, I can easily choose my product, and everything is personalized and everything is very easy. Amazon is the new Google, I would say. Then Netflix, absolutely brilliant, because Netflix does all the hyper personalization for sure. But on top of that, what they also do is that they produce all the series based on what people like. So it's not surprising that all the series they do are completely are an amazing, basically with an amazing resonance, and they never flop. Yeah, so they never ever flop. So Amazon and Netflix and Google's of this world create this so-called liquid expectation. And what we see, and that's one of the discussions point we have today, is the next level of that is Fortnite, Roblox, because all the gaming experience and everything we have there in terms of what we can deliver is already another experience which customers from the gaming world are now expecting also from any brand. And that's also why a lot of the experiences we see now, which brands are trying and exploring, are in the gaming world. Because for me, they are the most advanced in terms of the new experiences, in terms of the virtual experiences. And you see, which is interesting, if you look at some of the interactions, you see that basically the social media, like TikTok, which is now the number one, is getting replaced by Fortnite and Roblox. You can see that from all the data analytics, which is quite amazing. Yeah. So let's say what we have seen with Balenciaga, they have created a beautiful wearable in the metaverse. You can say, if you call gaming a metaverse, which is contradictory and heavily discussed. But at that point in time, when they have created this, you had a huge spike in Fortnite. Then the other one is events. So you had, maybe you don't know them, but Ariana Grande, Travis Scott, they have 40 million viewers with those events. Another spike also in Roblox. We have Nike. Nike has last year started to have a Nike-verse in Roblox. And guess how many users they have? 7 million already.
What?
So we've done a lot of experiences there. So they have done gaming, they have done NFTs, they have done also reflection on the real world and the virtual world. So first time also Nike store in New York. I don't know if you have been there, but they have created a whole virtual world in the real world. So it's not that you have a shop which then gets transferred, like McDonald's has done that, for example, transferred in the metaverse. They have done it the other way around. They have said, okay, let's do something where we bring the virtual world to the real world. So these are all the experiences which we have already, and where you can say the people we have to deliver it to are expecting from us much more than just a product. And product is very linear, as we all know. So it gets really, everything gets interconnected. We have a hyper connectivity also with Internet of Things and all the other stuff we just mentioned.
Looking at all this, what would be your definition of metaverse?
That's a very good.
It's a highly contested term. What is it? So everybody has probably their own view, but what's yours?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question because it's similar to when you ask a lawyer or different lawyers, you get probably different answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I very much like a definition from Matthew Ball, who is the sort of guru of the metaverse, where he talks about the virtual world. But in my view, it's not only the virtual world; it's also the augmented world, and is more about the social part. So it's a social experience. So I always say you can laugh, play, earn, work in the metaverse. So this is all social experience in the virtual, in the augmented world. In this is all together. And then from a vision point of view, it's very important that this metaverse is not like one big world. And people sometimes think it's one big thing. If you remember, also the internet is not one big thing. I mean, it's everything. We call it the internet. So let's call the next level of the internet is a metaverse. And let's say what's the beauty of it, hopefully in the future will be everything is interoperable. So if you look at games, if you look at Decentraland, which is one of the builds with real estate, that's not yet the case. So if I am an avatar and I have wearable, I cannot travel with it. And also to the authentication, to the identity point, I don't have an identity I carry with me right now. So the metaverse definition per se is a vision, but it's
Mhm.
not something which is yet there. I think we all have consents about it, or let's say most of the people, where it's differentiated. It's not the internet, it's not gaming, it's something beyond.
Mhm.
I believe I read in Wired, someone, and I can't remember who wrote it, uh, described metaverse as if you were to think, if you were to say anything with the word cyberspace in it and replace it with metaverse, 90% of the time you'd be correct. You know, cyberspace in the William Gibson neuromancer sense. Is that where we're moving toward, do you think?
I think this is an excellent description. We have so many features in the metaverse. One of the very exciting companies, who is also one of the top platforms by capitalization right now, it's, I would say, also could even supersede Apple at a certain point in time. It's NVIDIA. And NVIDIA has created what is called the Omniverse. Yeah. And the Omniverse right now, how in the technology they have there already, because we always think, oh, it's so far away, is so much there already. So what they have done is in the Omniverse, they basically mirror the real world, but they mirror it in a way that you can, for example, create together design for a car like BMW. They can also see all the processes with BMW, so they can do it much more efficient. They can avoid certain mistakes which are made. They can do it more sustainable. And the big thing they are working on right now, apart from also there's a feature on healthcare, you can basically do that in any space, is the Earth. So they are trying to mirror the entire Earth, so all the data we have on Earth.
Good luck.
And just imagine if you mirror the entire Earth and you have simple things like, I want to test X, Y, that. So I want to test the e-car. I want to test. I want to test also sustainability factors. If you have the entire Earth, you can also see there's always this chaos theory. If the wing of a butterfly, what happens next in like kilometers away. Yeah? So that's a bit the thinking. So they're working on something very big, but they have already done quite a lot in that space. Yeah. So
Wow.
there is another feature is for me is the Omniverse, and that has a huge impact already on what people can do. And the other exciting part of that is, which I briefly mentioned, is healthcare. So we talk in the metaverse, we talk a lot about gaming, but we forget also what it can do in terms of healthcare. Yeah, because there are a lot of applications in healthcare already where, for example, if you are not able to get the specialist doctor to travel to your location, it's not so difficult anymore because you can basically work with them on a virtual basis, and Microsoft has this HoloLenses where you can exactly that specialist can direct you, even with if you have very limited knowledge, to do the operation in Africa or in the desert or even in Germany if you don't have a US expert. And you can get all these experts together to work together to help you. The other part is, which we are already very familiar with due to COVID, is telemedicine. So just imagine what you can do there if you're virtual. Then another part of healthcare is what they have found out, that in neuroscience and also with a lot of the pain, depressive patients, you can do a lot with the virtual reality. Obviously, there's always a dark side of it. There's also certain neuroscience which says that if you have these headsets all the time, you get motion sick, and if you're always in a game, you cannot differentiate anymore what is reality, what is virtual. So there are also the dark sides, but I think there are a lot of applications which are actually helping people. And from that point of view, also coming back to the vision of the metaverse could be something which is not only making money, but which could create a better world if we all shape this in that direction. I think that for me would be my big vision, but it's very idealistic. You can say people have tried this with the internet, but that would be just fantastic. Yeah, if we were able to achieve that, even only parts of that.
Yeah, it's a very attractive vision.
Yeah.
I imagine that all of us can see the possibilities there. What I wonder is how we get from where we're at now, how we use technology and how we consume media at the moment, to this vision of the future. Because moving from point A to point B has a whole bunch of different steps in it. And at what point is nobody really using a keyboard anymore? And are we all wearing our Google glasses or whatnot?
Yeah, so
when does that happen?
The keyboard is already gone, I would say. Yeah, so that we do, even that we already. Oh, exactly. Sorry. Yeah, you have it. Like,
I got one too.
I'm an old man. I'm so bad.
Throw it away.
And the trackpad. And the trackpad. Don't tell me I'm outdated.
No, but
Don't
you
tell me
know,
I'm old.
normally also today you said if your laptop or whatever you have is not working, use the iPhone. Yeah. So I mean, I love iPhone as you know from my podcast. But anyway, you have the mobile phone, and already it has been said, which I think is very, very clear, is that the mobile phone is we are cyborgs because we are connected and glued to the mobile phone. It's our main application is really the cyborg application. And everyone is quite clear also in terms of the metaverse. It all will start with the iPhone and probably augmented reality on the iPhone. Simple things like you see something in the street and you want to know what's about, and you get everything augmented. Yeah. Or today I was reading something, or even listening to someone, you go and see another person, and that other person has a beautiful fashion, and you really want to find out. I mean, it's maybe a very female thing here, but you want to find out, where is it coming from, who's the designer, and so on. And you can see it, but also on the other hand, you will be rewarded as a person who has been recognized. So everyone can be an influencer and everyone can be a creator. So that's also very different from Web 2, because we're talking in Web 3 about the creator economy. Yeah? But having said that, critical parts, we started to talk about Meta. Who owns the metaverse? Who owns Web 3, which are two different things, but it's heavily debated right now because, as we know, everything was also, when we were creating the internet, we had this big idea of everyone is equal, everyone has access, we can do much more inclusion, which to a certain extent is true if we look at countries like Africa or other countries, everyone has access, and everyone has access to information. So it's no longer the power, it's no longer the information. The power is more access, and we give access. But in the new world, which we are creating right now, there are the VCs. So Jack Dorsey has said, forget the creator economy, basically. It will be all the VCs. And he put this on Twitter to Andreessen Horowitz, who immediately cut him off the tweet. Yeah, they have in between now, they have restated him, but I find this is just demonstrates. And I'm not saying good or bad, but I'm saying there are different players. There are the VCs, there are the metas of this world, Meta, Microsoft, Google, there's Apple, big companies. Whilst maybe we had the idea the big tech wouldn't now. I mean, now everything is new in the metaverse. We see something same resembling. So it's not one or the other. Yeah.
Where will the classic industries find their parts in the metaverse, such as the claim of Toyota, nothing is impossible? I'm just waiting that some smart Japanese folks enter that space to do their thing. I trust the Chinese had already done, because they love to find out, copy, and place it in their own space so that they can manipulate it to their advantage.
Yeah, big challenge. But if you talk about cars, just maybe a little anecdote, because we talked about Elon Musk before we started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tesla is already in the metaverse, not surprisingly. A Tesla car or virtual car has been used in one of the Chinese games. Yeah, and Ferrari also has been with a special Ferrari in one of the games here. So there are so many different ways how
product placement.
But in the sense of, it's not only product placement, it's about people really who are in those games. They love, I mean, for once they can drive a Ferrari, for once they can explore the Tesla. Yeah. So but also the other point which I made is production lines, designs, and everything. There's so much. I mean, the metaverse is not one fits all. There are so many features of it that is really sometimes hard to grasp, because you have every day, every minute, there's something new. So I'm sure also, Thomas, when you have all this research every day and you're like, oh my God, this happens now, and you're trying to find clusters to put it somewhere. Yeah. So there's certainly this big cluster of experience, and there is this big cluster of what is a supporting technology, and so on and so forth. There's another very, very brilliant author. He's called John Radoff. He has this 7 layers of the metaverse, which I'm sure you know. And I think these 7 layers are really the best to describe it, and the best how you can get a little bit of where do I put all this new stuff? Yeah.
Thomas is in the 8th layer.
My camera doesn't like me anymore.
Once I mentioned the name,
you've been kicked out of the metaverse.
It's kicked out of the metaverse, but I have a plan B, which actually is a plan C.
Yeah, we can see you again, but differently.
Yeah, because it's another camera.
Broader.
For whatever reason, sometimes this other camera, and I haven't identified it yet, which metaverse trigger it is, just gets switched off.
But I mean, there's obviously, that's why I think these 7 layers, they demonstrate also part of it, what companies can do. But there's so much more. And I think what we also should not underestimate, a little bit what I said with Nike, brands who are just mirroring. So let's say Walmart, you have your shopping cart and you run around in Walmart. This is not the most exciting experience. Yeah, it's helpful because you have a new experience in terms of, or new, it's not really new, it's facilitating new shopping. But there's so much more to explore which we haven't even discovered. Yeah. And again, I mean, this other point you reminded me at the beginning of the call, digital identity. I mean, it's so difficult if, let's say, I'm this avatar. I've seen avatars in Decentraland. They were like a minotaur. So like, totally different figures, and you have no clue who that is. So what happens to communities and how you identify yourself? And we have that in the real world already, because we have in the real world, we have badges when we go somewhere and things like that. So probably something similar will be there. And there's another great book about digital twins and how they disrupt entirely. I think this book is John. What's his name? I'm missing the name right now, but it's a brilliant book, Digital Twin Disrupting all the economy, basically. Because if you think also in banking about a digital twin, it's not so much, I mean, we know digital twin, the bots and chatbots, and that's what clients getting used to, but you have a digital twin as an advisor. And then I started in South Korea. They are the most advanced. So you have an AI banker, the first AI banker there, but it's still situated in a branch, which is not the way how it would work in the future. In the future, it would probably be you go there, or you don't even go in the branch. You say, okay, I want to know more about my portfolio now. You have like in Minority Report or so, you have your augmented reality. You can see, what is happening if I maybe reduce my exposure there. Woo, it happens like that. And if you want to talk to someone, you get your relationship manager who looks exactly like you. There's a company you might have seen, it's called Soul Machine. And they're already working with RBS, and they mirror you. They create this digital twin, and this digital twin is not, ideally, it's not fed by just machines and content. It's fed by, just imagine, which is already possible, by your experience. So you have over 20 years financial services experience, for example, and you will feed that, and you will continue to feed it. Yeah. So all of a sudden, this AI banker becomes you, because he also gets everything what you are. So this sounds a little bit scary. Has certain advantages. So you can go to the beach whilst your digital twin is working, but there are obviously a lot of other things. You can be in different.
And I can have many of them.
Yeah.
As
So
long
there
as
is
I'm
the
the one who
positive.
gets paid.
Yeah, positive side. And you would think, okay, hang on, but as a real person, I want to have a real person. But remember also now what's being developed is that this soul machine, basically as it's called, can see what kind of behavior you have, and can also see if I don't understand something, then they can see it. You know that this technology is already there. So mind reading, which we know from the series, where this brilliant person can read your mind. So obviously a machine can do that. And if they're always right, is something else. And in the US, they're trying this with court cases, because they feel like the jury is sometimes too biased. Again, this is all very scary, but this is a direction of travel. And that's, from my point of view, it's exciting to be engaged in this, and hopefully, and that should be our target, that we also can start shaping it. And the more we understand, is my view, that's why I'm really passionate about it, the more we can shape it. So it's with every change, if we just say, okay, or forget it, I don't care about it, then we have probably the problem some of the elderly people have, who don't have a smartphone. They're completely cut off also during COVID. They cannot communicate via WhatsApp or anything. And you will be that person who cannot use a smartphone. Yeah. So in a couple of years' time.
Question. Earlier you brought a point that people will not be really able to distinguish between what's real and what not. The immediate question then, in a world that is kind of metaverse-ish, means is a hybrid of physical and digital, question, does it matter?
Again, a very good question, but I do think it might not matter, but it really depends on, like you have with AI, the ethics behind it. what are the ethical principles if we have this emerging world? That's very important. And this has not been, you can say this has not been really, a lot of people think about it, but this has not been agreed, so to speak. So what are, and even in the, I would say in the real world, we can question that. It's a very philosophical question, but it goes back to what we want to be and what we want to create. So if we have that vision, we want to create a better world, then we have to think about what is this immersion? What does it mean? And how can I make sure we have inclusion, we have fairness, we have all of this principles somewhere. Some person has created, or some people have created the Metaverse Manifesto, trying to create those principles, but it's something which is, I would say, under creation. So to your point, does it matter? It really depends. If you look at also all the science fiction movies, which everyone or every feature of that will, like Minority Report, Ready Player One, Matrix, they're all showing us where it goes to. And then the question is, do I want to go there? In parts yes, in parts not. Very difficult. Obviously I don't want to be the object of something, but it's hard to say.
So far, there is a difference between what happens in Doom, an ego shooter, if I kill my opponent there, or in real life, right? So there is a difference as per now.
But you will be surprised. That is a big question. So let's also
for
look
the
at
one on the other end. No.
No, but maybe not. But from our point of view, what also neuroscience has found out, obviously we see that also with children, the more really war games they play, it's really terrible, the result. But also what we see right now, which is interesting and quite shocking, and I had the same experience, when you use an avatar, and even maybe the avatar is not exactly looking like you, if people come too close to you, or if we had this woman harassment even already in the metaverse, they basically were taking you over, and there were 3-4 people making their joke out of it, and the reaction to that was that Meta introduced this kind of shield around you. But you should not underestimate that even in a game or as an avatar, they call it it's a self-extension, basically. Identity is an extension of your self-identity. It's really terrible if people mistreat you, or in the game we feel like, oh yeah, they shoot me, you can shoot hundreds, but over time you don't feel the pain anymore, as you probably know from gaming. That's a big problem. But as soon as you use an avatar, it gets even worse, because you have created this avatar and you have thought about what will be the look, and even if it's a frog or something, it's your avatar. It's the extension of yourself. It's really
the more personal you make it, the more personal you feel it. Right?
Yeah, but even if it's the interesting thing is, even it's a very good point, Marshall, because it's this personalization, and it could be a person, but it could also be a fish, because you are the fish. We are very, very good as human beings. We know that every one of us can dream. We very often don't know what we are dreaming, but we have this basically already. We are already creating virtual worlds with our brains, with our dreams. So for us, the virtual world is not different. It's absolutely not different. The metaverse is the dream we are in, but that's the danger also, because this dream, also when we dream is very real to us, and everything which happens to us in that dream, we know that when we wake up and think, oh my God, and I totally either very happy or very, very unhappy. And then in the next moment we can say, oh, thanks God, it was only a dream. But the more we have this also experiences, like you mentioned, with glasses and with, it's so easy. Every day we are in a dream. Everything around us becomes reality. It's wow, then it's very difficult.
I see a real challenge. I discuss this very often with my wife, who was listening to several podcasts on artificial intelligence here in Germany from one of the radio stations in the area we are living in Hessen. And they did a lot of research with universities. They had a professor, a female, who is in AI ethics, very famous. And she said, this is far away from getting settled. And we are in development phases. And in that series, they pointed out, for instance, one thing which concerned me really is such as males are the majority of programmers. A lot of the artificial intelligence-driven programs are acting too much in male intent. So if human resources selection processes are driven by the support of an artificial intelligence, females have disadvantages, such as in court cases, a software they use in the United States, blacks have a lot of problem because the artificial intelligence is written mostly by
Hold up, geez.
white people at this time. They had a lot of.
I think someone's connection
Ralph is fading out, yeah.
Yeah, but he raises an incredible important point, and that comes.
Sorry. I just wanted to raise that topic that there is in programming a real danger if it's not, as you said, on equal terms done and taken forward from the technology behind what is delivered to us as the metaverse.
Yeah, but I mean, I totally, 180% agree. And since AI is one of the underpinning technologies, which will be or are already part of all of what we discussed, that's why I also mentioned AI, ethics, trust, and a lot of people have a lot of mistrust in AI if they know what's going on. But what we have also seen, for example, with Netflix, I mean, they have like so much data from you, but the good news is they use it so far for personalization, but they have also announced they want to use it now for ads. And I think this is so, I mean, I'm so disappointed that they are now doing the same. And on top of that, I'm disappointed because I've seen Netflix as someone who can disrupt themselves. So they should not do something which is already outdated, because this is Web 2 thinking, that you basically have client data or customer data and then you use it. This is no longer the basically the vision of Web 3 or anything. And what Netflix has done, where I thought they are in the new space, is they have created Netflix game, also a gaming part. So they have realized that our streaming will be and TV will be completely replaced. Yeah, so it's over. Yeah, even though you have still Disney and so on going up, but Disney also moved into the metaverse. Yeah, so from that point of view, as I said, I'm very disappointed about the usage of what they do with AI, and everyone knows the Netflix documentary about the social dilemma, which is really demonstrating what internet companies like Facebook, I mean, basically all the people who have worked for internet companies before and are now saying, no, I don't want to work for them anymore. They telling their children, no internet, so nearly like no social media, because if you know how it's used and if you know how it's basically misused, that I think is the other big task and challenge we have, that we need to make sure that in Web 3 and in the metaverse, we are not really having the same conflicts. Again, this is really, really high up ambition, but I do think we have to have this ambition to know where we are getting to.
You now a couple of times rightfully distinguished between Web 3 and Metaverse, but it's probably worthwhile that you explain the distinction.
Yeah, another
Not
question
because
where the answers is an answer where you have like tons, but I would say most of the people agree that the Web3 is more the technology, so blockchain, NFTs.
Another question.
Was it an echo or?
Yeah.
Well, that was an echo by adding additional loudspeakers.
Okay. Who was it? Who can we blame? Yeah, we can blame you.
Let's blame the metaverse.
Yeah, exactly. Cyberspace. No, but so Web3 is more about the underpinning technology, whilst the metaverse, as we described this, is about the virtual world, the social experiences. So it's totally different. So you would also not say that the smartphone is the internet, yeah? So somehow, if you think about it, the internet and the next level is the metaverse, and all the underpinning technology and smartphone is something different. So if you think in that analogy, then the Web3 is quite different from the metaverse. All the underpinning technology and smartphone is...
Now, I'm not the one.
In that analogy.
Let's do the time warp
again. Yeah.
It wasn't me. You can also use it. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me, yeah.
So one thing that this makes me wonder, everything that we've discussed so far has been, it seems to have been focused very much on business to consumer type interactions. It's all very much how individuals will interact with the metaverse. Is there a business to business case here? Now, I know that in a couple of days, Meta is hosting a virtual conference to discuss business messaging, but I don't know that I haven't heard anything else on that. Is there a place for B2B Metaverse? Where does that go?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you think about the cases we discussed previously in terms of the Omniverse, for example, yeah. So if you think about that, BMW does work with a lot of suppliers, yeah.
Yes.
So it's B2B. And if you then recreate everything in the metaverse, then everything is B2B. So it's basically there's an entire, that's why I think about it also in terms of ecosystem. With all your partners, you are in the metaverse, and then you deliver also something to the customer who is part of what, Thomas, what you described, the real and the metaverse, and there's a true immersion. Yeah, because the customer will try the car in the metaverse. It's no problem already now. You can try it virtually. The customer also might do the co-creation, you know. He might say, you know, I like the car in different colors, and you can say which color you want. You can do it all there, but there's a lot of, I think, a lot of ways how B2B works. And again, if we think in the terms of ecosystem, in the same we have today, then there is an entire ecosystem play of different companies working together and delivering services B2B.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we currently would name simulation in the B2B area. So that's why probably the term doesn't become that predominant or dominant in that area. The whole digital twin thing, for example, would work there as well. Simulating a factory before I build it, just to make sure that it can work. Without spending a hell of a lot of money already to build something that I then need to change.
Yeah, and also again in healthcare, they have even used for COVID, you know, to help COVID patients and other things, and all the development on the vaccine. You can basically also there say, if you create, which you can already, digital twins of people, you can check out what would work and what wouldn't work. Yeah, so you have a virtual variant of COVID, and you have a related pharmacy. So everything, every sector will change. We cannot imagine how much will change. That's why I'm saying every minute you look now for what's new. There is something new, which is in healthcare, which is in other parts, and there are so many applications of what can be done. And a lot of people say, why is it happening now? Is not happening now because of meta. I mean, we call it the meta effect because everyone is, I mean, in Google search, it has gone up, the search for the metaverse. It's happening now because there are different factors happening. And that's one is the convergence of tech, basically, all the technologies, AI, IoT, blockchain, everything is coming together at a speed which is exponential. So we see exponential growth as we have seen with platforms. Then the second part is certainly also COVID, because we all know that due to COVID, we have been more forced into this world. So the adoption level is much, much higher than it was before. So telemedicine, no one really cared before, but then they were very grateful someone can take care of me. Shopping, we all know online shopping. And now, since we have all these experiences, also adoption is higher. And what I find very interesting, there is a really good example with Axie Infinity, the play to earn. This has saved the lives of the Philippines. In the Philippines, obviously, they had no money. They were starving of hunger because they had no job. They couldn't work. They're very much relying on the tourist industry. And they discovered Axie Infinity. And the beauty of that game is it's a play to earn game that you basically can convert what you earn in the game to fiat currency. So they made US dollar out of this and they could earn that money, which was great. And in terms of adoption, which was very interesting because we always in banking in particular and in insurance, financial services, we think, oh, the customer will not understand this and oh, this is too complicated. But the experience in that game is so good that they had people from like very young age to elderly people over 70 years old playing. And there was one family who played 24 hours a day.
Wow.
And then the bot of Axie, that was like, we have a misusage here because there is someone playing 24 hours, which is impossible. So they checked it out, and then they discovered this family, who the entire family was on that game to make sure they can earn the money and most of it. And they were asked and forced that someone from the neighborhood basically takes a video over a couple of days so that Axie could make sure that it wasn't a strange bot destroying their whole game, but it was really natural that they were all in the game. Earning
So
the whole family.
they did shifts, or what did they do?
Yeah, in shifts. That was like just what I thought.
Yes, in shifts. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was one user in shifts, very smart, because then you can get the maximum out of the game. And obviously, in between, they had to make sure that the next person was in the family also understands what they have done. So even the 70-year-old, they became very professional. So if you look at pictures, Axie Infinity game Philippines, you will see pictures where all these faces from all these people are there, and from like the grandma and the younger ones, because and then you think, I can't understand it. And they use tokens, they use blockchain, they use this very intuitively. If you ask them what is blockchain, they can't explain it. But this is the beauty. And this is, I think, also comes back to customer experience. It's not important. You shouldn't even worry about the term mortgage. There should be someone who just says, okay, you need this for your house, you get it, Don't use mortgage. You just do it. And from that point of view, there's also a lot of development, like with NFTs now, representing real world property, so that you can fractionalize it. So all this technology which is being developed, which we think is being developed as part of the metaverse, is actually something which has real use cases also in the real world. So that's very exciting. And one person I really admire is called Peter Diamandis, whom you probably very well know in the US. He always talks about the age of abundance. So everything becomes from scarcity into abundance. And I do think that the metaverse is one of the means to become this and to be more abundant.
That is actually a very good keyword for me to pitch in, because right now I'm looking at most of those business models, especially the NFT models. Look at Decentraland. So what they base their models on is actually scarcity. So a property that is close to the property of, let's name him Elon, to a celebrity is far more valuable than any other property. Why? Because there is no notion of proximity anymore, or another notion of proximity, because it's all just one click away. So
yeah, but the interesting part, I mean, I'm happy you mentioned this example, but there's another much bigger example, which is our Snoop Doggy Dog. Yeah, he has this, which you know, I'm sure. So he has this property in Sandbox. Yeah, and he has, and then someone next to him, he has many. I mean, he has one big plot. And what is he creating? He's creating a Snoopverse, and someone next to him bought also a plot for $500,000. Normally, those properties, as you say, they go for like 9, 12, 15,000, depending on what you want to do with it. But the person, if you also think about if you have been in Decentraland or Sandbox, if you are next to Snoop Doggy Dog, then you see what's going on in your next door's neighbor. Hood. Yeah, basically that's also why you have to be careful where you buy something, because can you build high or not? Are there streets and what you see and so on? It's not that trivial actually. Yeah, and Snoop Dogg has done also very interesting. You should watch that on YouTube. He has done a nice video how he bought the house, and obviously there's this whole story about the events. So he's creating avatars, and the idea is same as in the real world. Is one is scarcity, as you mentioned, but the other one is also I want to be close to that action. So it's what we do in the real world. So if you say in the real world, how stupid are the people who want to live next door to, I don't know, Tom Cruise, or to Tom Cruise, then you must say, okay, it's not my cup of tea. Or if you say, I mean, the real, what is also there are people who argue, and one of the fashion specialists is Gucci. You have seen what Gucci does. I mean, they have created the Gucci Garden. They now get paid, or they're testing it was being paid in cryptocurrency. The most expensive bag of Gucci was sold in the metaverse, $4,500.
But still, this notion of scarcity doesn't really apply. Let's stick to the real estate part. So, and proximity doesn't really apply as well. So
that is a theory, but that is not true, because you think there's another argument which a lot of people make. You can do your own metaverse basically. Yeah. So why you bother about anyway buying a metaverse from anyone?
Yeah.
So why would you buy a Decentraland if you can create it yourself? But it's like the same, like you want to be in New York, you want to be 5 Madison Avenue, because that's a fashion district now also in Decentraland. It's called differently. It's a fashion district. But you can say, okay, I'm here in my nice Zug Weichville. We only have 3,000 inhabitants, and there's still a free plot, which wouldn't be sold to me because everything is protected, but let's assume it would be sold to me, and I can make a fashion district here. Yeah, but it's meaningless, because the fashion district here, no one will come. And what you underestimate also in the virtual world is exactly the same. That's why they're all fighting. I'm not saying Decentraland or Sandbox is one, or they have lots of differences, but they're all fighting for your attention, and they're all fighting for who is here, and that makes the big difference. So in Decentraland, you have the fashion people. I mean, they're all over that place. Okay. But having said that, they're also in Roblox. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But then again, so now I'm in Decentraland. Yeah. So that I'm a simple guy. Yeah? And I'm a cynic guy. I can imagine only
Very
one
much
single
alive.
reason why I restrict the number of available plots, and while I reconstruct the notion of proximity in the virtual world. And that's making bugs. Me making bugs.
Yeah.
It's the only reason, and that I can imagine. So, but as said, I'm a simple and cynic. So now my basic question is, shouldn't we transcend that? Doesn't the idea of metaverse go beyond that? Or
It
do
does.
we...
It does. That's why I say also at the beginning, I say there's not only one big metaverse right now. Right now, there you have the gaming, you have the real estate. Players. They are not really real estate. I mean, they do all sorts of things, and the decentralized and so on are on blockchain. Gaming is not on blockchain. There's also Roblox might be on blockchain in the future. But to be honest with you, right now you have I would say you have this creation of different countries if you compare that. And there is no passport to travel to the other world. Yeah. So everyone does his little own thing. Everyone, like Decentraland has a DAO, decentralized autonomous also organization where people can vote, where you have not only one owner. Then think about Meta. I mean, Meta creates their own metaverse, whilst Zuckerberg says, I can't create it on my own. The metaverse will do it all together. Yeah, but I completely agree with you. Should we not resist this notion, and should we not start thinking about more, to my point, thinking about the Earth, like now the Omniverse does and started with, should we not do something where we create something which is really valuable? So like with healthcare and all the other stuff. But even in real world, as I said, you might question, why do you need a fancy car? Why do you need a Tesla? I mean, it is an e-car, but a very fancy.
Very expensive.
Why do you spend this? And it's also outdated in a way, because we are talking about the next. You don't need cars anymore. Yeah. So this is we shouldn't get stuck with what is today. We should think about, okay, this is transition to something which is hopefully bigger than that.
Which is basically the point I want to get to, because right now, with all these countries that are evolving, it's kind of a gold rush. Like, it reminds me of Klondike. Reminds me of Klondike, right?
So, gold rush.
Who got rich?
Yeah, right now, I mean, so far, I mean, that's why I said who owns Metaverse. Yeah? So you have all the big companies, the big tech, again, whoa. Then you have the VC investors also. Then you have the cryptocurrency guys. I mean, there are a lot of people, but the idea originally was that, I mean, the people who create the metaverse, basically, that's what is called the creator economy, they would own it, but we are far from beyond that. Yeah.
What can be done to get there? Because after all, we are humans. We take care of ourselves, not of each other, but of ourselves, first and foremost. So what?
I think there are a lot of little projects which are very, very interesting, where you also have things which you can support. So, for example, 2 days ago, I posted something which is called 1 million kisses for health. Yeah, and it's a creation of a kiss NFT. Yeah, so that itself is nice. So you can give kisses to everyone, beautiful virtually. It's very, very cheap, and the money is used to support mental illness or disorder, disability from creators, from artists. So there are this little, I would say, even buckets. So I always like to start with little things, because sometimes otherwise you're also overwhelmed by, okay, what can I do to meet her? Yeah, okay, I don't use Horizon or something. Yeah, so I don't buy a Tesla. But for me, this is, okay, I can do that, but it will have an impact, yes or not, or whatever. But if you look at projects where you think they really have a meaning, and like this project wants to create mental health for artists, a whole ecosystem with all different things. And they have initiated this, and they want to do it. Also, October, there is a day which is a mental illness day. So they drive this all around this topic. So how beautiful is that, I thought? You combine this mental illness with spread the love, you can say. That sounds a little bit like a hippie, but if you can create this kind of things and you can get involved in this and support it, I find this is really the way you yourself step by step can do something. So, and then on top of that, if you associate yourself with people who are, and we are, as you say, we are human beings. We are very good at that. We are very good at communities. This goes so much to our heart, being in a community which cares. Then associate yourself with that. So the more we have people associating themselves with communities which drive this, what I call the better world, and there are quite a number of them, the more we can also create something which is bigger than what is created today. It's a big ask, maybe. You start small, and then you venture out. So start always with yourself. What can you do? I mean, it's like $5 for a kiss, and you give that to someone, you send it, and that person, he or she, gets a kiss. I mean, that's lovely.
It is,
Very nice.
And this is also kind of a perfect famous last word thingy, right? So, no, it was the last but one word. Last question. What is your wish that you probably pretty much expressed it, but what is your prediction of what's going to happen with Metaverse in the next 2 to 3 years? Will it become kind of B2C mainstream? Will it move into B2B as well as a term, or will we get back to, well, a set of separate technologies and other terms?
There is no turning back. No, absolutely. I mean, we are at a point where Gartner has done very good hypes. They have they're doing this hype cycles, and they have done this on emerging technology. So, which I find is very, very good description of where we are. So we are in a hype right now with a lot of the stuff, like with NFTs and so on. AI is a little bit before the hype. And then what comes disillusionment. So we will be all like, we are already partially there because we had this Bored Ape explosion, we have the crypto explosion. And then it comes to a point where it flattens a little bit, and then it goes into normal, then it comes really to the normal. I think the plateau of production. So I think if you use this hype cycle, and you should look at Gartner emerging technology at that specific chart, that tells you all, because it tells you the technology. So that it also shows there's no turning back is one point. The second point, if we look at everything already, we can see what we as human beings have problems with, because our brain is very linear, as you know. We can see exponential growth in all aspects, everything. So even with a hype cycle, I mean, we see all the games exponential. We see all social media exponential. And my personal view is social media will be gone. And I do think that also Zuckerberg, that he realized that social media is dead in a couple of years' time, faster than we think, because we always think, we have the feeling, everything is coming along. But then also we know change is happening slowly, but then it's there. It's boom, So this is what is happening now. Change is there, and there's no turning. It's only looking there. So.
These now have been really good, famous last words. Thanks a lot, Martha. So thanks a lot to everybody who is also still there. And there are people still there.
Thank you for listening to us.
See you next time. We are going backstage now, so don't leave us yet, Martha, please.
Thanks a lot to everyone listening to us. And hopefully we have more interaction, and hopefully you help us all to shape our future.
Well said.
That's cool.
Well said.